Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Epic Vision Zone. My name is Jane Applegath, a former award-winning stockbroker, television producer, scriptwriter, yoga instructor, serial entrepreneur, and now founder of the Epic Vision Zone. I'm here to help you fulfill your dream's big vision, grow the power of your voice, and achieve the impact you're meant to have on the world. Because what you say and why you say it is the key to influencing more people, growing financially free, and living a more abundant and joyful life. Here at the Epic Vision Zone, we bring you some of the world's most influential people to inspire you to hit the go button on your epic life. A big thank you to everyone for being here today. Shiri Appleby wrote, "Once you start to listen to your voice, you start to feel the power in it." Eliana Gilad, a two-time TEDx presenter, motivational speaker, healing voice mentor, therapeutic singing trainer, composer, performer, and founder of Voices of Eden, Ancient Wisdom and Healing Music Institute, is our guest today. Born in the United States, Eliana left for France in 1991 and then moved to Israel, where she held herself at peace despite bombings during 3 Middle East wars, using healing, empowering techniques she now teaches. Eliana's work revives the conscious use of voice and rhythm as natural healing instruments, just as in the ancient times. Today, her wordless sound modality helps people find their ancient voices and connect to their inner calm during change. Through her institute, Eliana researches and teaches the principles of thriving through uncertainty via online training and live retreats. She certifies healing professionals in the therapeutic singing model that is clinically proven to reduce anxiety and foster creativity as a fuel. Her new international bestseller, Emerge Triumphant, Thrive Through Uncertainty, helps readers understand that when they give their inner voice the ability and power to shine, limiting barriers can be broken and people can become their own leaders, opening themselves up to a world of new possibilities. Welcome, Eliana. Thank you so much for being here today.
Wow, what a beautiful introduction. Thank you for that.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're very welcome. It's all you. And it's so interesting when someone reads it back to ourselves because we often don't give ourselves that credit, So my pleasure. Yeah, my
Takes one to
pleasure. Exactly. Absolutely. Well, I am so excited to dive into this topic. Um, I want to just start out right away by you telling us about your story because it is fascinating.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's go back. I'm sitting looking out on the Hollywood sign. My life is more interesting than any Hollywood movie. I was born under that Hollywood sign. And let's roll back about, God, 30 years. It was towards the end of the 1980s, the recession in the United States. If you were in the United States, then you would know about that. I was, let's call me a yuppie on the spiritual path at that point. And they said, well, we're not firing you. We're just not continuing your position and look for another job. And I heard that word job and I wanted to puke. Pardon my French.
Mm.
But I had, ever since I was a little girl, I had this, I had this clarity that part of the game of life is to discover why we're here on this earth, to play that role, and um, and everything I went to, it was like, what is it? 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 And I excelled in the outside every time, like moving up the ladder. And every time I did that, it looked better, but I felt worse inside because that wasn't,
Mm.
there was something elusive. It was like this, I felt like I was living this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of existence. And so when that point came, it felt like I was going to die if I would go get another job. It would look better. I'd make more money, look better on the outside. And thank God I had the fortitude and the courage at that point. It's like, and this has been a theme, I think, when I'm looking back over my adult life. Something else is calling me, that feeling inside. I didn't have words for it. I had no idea what it was. I just knew that if I kept going the way I knew in the past, that was worse. That terrified me. That terrified me more than the terror of jumping off into the unknown and not knowing the answer. And I could see the writing on the wall. I could see that in another 20, 30 years, everything was going to fall apart at the seams. I thought, well, if I make my changes now, then in another 20, 30 years, I'll already be on the other side. And then I'll be able to come back and really be of service. And it felt like also I needed to leave the States. I was born and raised here, but I never felt like this was my place. The last thing about my story is that, and this is quite new, this is more recent that I'm being very vocal about this, is that so while I was born under that Hollywood sign, actually in Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, which actually I think is prophecy of my, then future in the Middle East, and now it's full circle. Now I'm back here in Hollywood. And at the same time, I was born of the Levite tribe on both my mom's side and my dad's side. So we're unbroken thousands of years old, which makes me a direct descendant of the prophetess Miriam, who is elder sister to Moses. Hardly anybody knows who Miriam is, but people know who Moses is. So they're my direct family.
Wow. So losing your job was actually a blessing in disguise at the time, because it gave you the space and actually the opportunity to step into who you really are. Because if you said like you were on that treadmill, but as long as you were on that treadmill, you kept going, like many of us do, because we feel that that's what we should be doing.
Exactly.
Due to it's our culture, it's our families, it's the way we're brought up. There's all kinds of beliefs behind that, but in essence, the universe came and saved you, so to speak, because then you went on your journey, and which took you to Europe, and then took you to Israel, and and here you are now living into your fullness, which is incredible. So thank you for that. I wanted to move on to the science and power of vibration, because Eliana, all of what you do has to do with not only our inner voice, but our outer voice. And in one of your TED Talks, you reveal the science behind the power of vibration, what you call the silent sound. Tell us more about that. And we saw some experiments on that TED Talk, and maybe you could talk a little bit about the water. So it's fascinating. And this just goes to show us how powerful our voices can be.
So let's go to the power of vibration.
Yes.
The essence of all matter is vibratory, right? Of the atom. Everything vibrates, and sound is the first manifestation from the ethers, tohu vavohu, from the ethers until matter. We can sculpt sound waves. We don't see them. Light comes afterwards. Mm-hmm. So when you connect to the source of the sound, you basically hold the entire power of the cosmos in your hands. And this is what the ancient prophetesses, they were the healers, they were the scientists, they were the medicine. It's hard for us to imagine because we live in a cognitive world, but in those days we were living according to feminine worldview, where what I mean by that is not man or woman. Like many think about nature. It's cyclical. It's not that when we're like here and I'm in the Pacific coast of the United States, we're in springtime now, lovely weather. That doesn't mean that winter's not happening at the same time. Somewhere else on the globe, it's winter. You go down under, different time. So when we go beyond the result, those are the physical manifestation. You can part water. I always thought, well, that story of the seas parting in Miriam, it says Miriam and the women, they led, the seas part. Well, what if their voices parted the waters?
Mm-hmm.
Because they knew the vibratory rate, but I didn't have any way to prove that. And, in our modern world, you got to have the good housekeeping seal of approval, which is why I went to the science way. And in that TED Talk, if you go watch it, it's called Trust Your Silent Voice. As I was preparing for that, I found this research from the University of Switzerland in Lausanne or Zurich. And so you watch, and there's a faucet, and the water comes down, and then they put a little knob, and they change the vibration, and the water starts dancing. It's amazing. I just think about that, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is something, the power of vibration. I mean, there's even an instance where they have the rocks on top of a machine that starts making a lot of noise, and it actually lifts the rocks off. But yeah, the power of vibration and how we communicate, it just goes to show you that there really is something into the core of that. And I thought that was fascinating that we now, have the technology. So if anyone has a chance, definitely take a look at that TED Talk. So moving on to then the power of the human voice. Tell us about the power of the human voice and the trusting your silent voice, finding that the bridge between your inner and outer world.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing, right? Because when which voice, if you're really honest with yourself, which voice do you listen to more? The ones that say should, could, would, better, gotta do it this way, or the ones that are maybe quieter, that are nudging you, that might not make sense? Ask yourself that for a moment. Because mostly what we're doing is we're in reaction to voices inside. Example, let's say you're going with some inspiration inside, and you're going, okay, I'm gonna go do that. Let's say it's about speaking. You want to really express your heart to someone, whether it's a colleague, whether it's a loved one, doesn't matter, but it's something that's really close to your heart. And then you go, you prepare yourself, you're clear on what you want to say, but you're so nervous, and you get there and you're in the conversation and you go to speak, and what comes out of your mouth is like night and day to what you were so clear you wanted to express. What is that? That's a silent voice that's screaming inside, telling you, do this, do that, do other. Those voices control us so much when we allow them to, out of habit. Yet when you will think of another time where you actually allowed yourself in that moment to stop and trust that other space that you didn't know but you knew, and you trusted it, and what came out of your mouth was, you didn't even know where it was coming from. It just came out. That's your true voice. And actually, guess what? Oh, thank you, God, that's so great. You see this? Can you see this?
Yeah.
This is, I just made these up. It says your voice makes a difference. And here's how I'm using it. I'm starting this movement with the launch of the book, your Make a Difference movement. And I'm being the guinea pig. And if you want to be a guinea pig too, go every time that thing happens with me, and boy, I went to a funeral yesterday, my Aunt Ruthie, and you got the whole family there. It's like all this stuff comes up, and I was going the Neanderthal
right.
voices, you get the family dynamics, and I kept choosing to connect, just surrender, and I put the bracelet on the other side, and every time that I do that, I put the bracelet on I change the band, because that way I'm reprogramming the synapses in the brain. It's neurobalancing. If you want, I'm having this little project, and if you want to contribute to it, a little story, teeny beanie, you could on your phone or write. It's at yourvoicemakes-a-difference.com. Just go there. There's a little Google form that I put up there. If you put your story in there, I'll send you one of these. And you can,
oh, wonderful.
it's my way of, and this is just an historic moment right now, Jane, because this is the first time I'm speaking of this in public, on the media waves. Because having been a CBS broadcaster, and I mean, the reason I do what I do today is in response to using my voice for constructive purpose. And I thought, as the book came out, and given everything that's going on today, my inner voice is guiding me to do this. Is sweetheart, it is time for you to show up. You're on the other side. There are so many people who are ready to move forward, and they don't have a lot of support, because all you need to do is open up your computer or your television. Right. Not a fun picture, what's on the commercial airwaves. So, when our voices join together, it doesn't require mass. Those rocks, our essence is so much more powerful than anything. It raises rocks, it parts the seas, and we can, part our own seas first of all, and then together it's really unstoppable.
Yeah, it really is. I love your energy. I was going to say the bracelet brings you back to your authentic voice. Please, anyone who's interested, check that out. And thank you for that story. Moving on to the 3 vital elements to focus and de-stress. You have mentioned that there are 3 elements to help us de-stress and increase our focus. Share with our audience what those are.
The 3 elements, I call them the 3 C's. The first is, so what makes us stress to begin with? Being up here in our minds. Right, wrong, how? Got to figure it out. Got to do it on my own. I want to move forward. How's it working for you, right? It's like doing more, getting nowhere fast, and exhausting yourself in the process. And yet, the first means to distress is to stop, and connect inside to where your answers are. Because if you don't stop long enough to listen inside, then we're just on autopilot, and we know where that takes us. So that's the first thing. Is the first C is to connect inside, and then once you stop and connect, and start listening, it brings you to the second C, which is then you can develop the courage to listen and trust what you're hearing. That's why I called that second TED Talk the Trust Your Silent Voice. The first TED Talk is called Your Voice, Let It Be Heard. And that actually deals more with the first C, with the connect. So then that second, is learning to trust that silent voice, trust what you're hearing inside. And then that when we do that, then that starts building our third C, the confidence to take action and to express what it is that we're hearing. That's the part of, when you go to express yourself, and no matter what comes up, your inner bombs coming off in your mind, that there's something that's beyond that place, because it's another paradigm. It's beyond cognitive mind, that you do speak your truth, that you express what's really real for you. And those are the three C's. And it's not do this, and you will get that result. It's not cognitive, it's experiential learning. And the cool thing about it, there's no right or wrong. You can't flub it up. It's just by daring to stop long enough to connect and respect yourself enough to listen inside where your answers are.
Yes, and that is a practice, but that, is something that once we're aware, the awareness is there, then we can practice it. Like you said, it's something that we have to keep bringing ourselves back to. And that being the case, your book mentions about being calm in changing times. How can applying this incredible modality and knowledge create calm for us, like with ourselves, inner peace? Once we know this knowledge, how can we apply that to keep ourselves in a centered being, so to speak?
I'm putting together, or I have put together, it's as of yesterday, ready. It's a free workshop to allow people to experience what you just asked. And what's astounding to me as I've been putting it together this last week, there's an application so that you could actually experience this. And I've used there's an application of sound that 10 years ago for a project, I went down to the ancient site of the parting of the seas, and I pitched a tent out there and woke up at dawn to compose something. And I put that into the workshop for one of the exercises to allow us to experience that. And what's really amazing, I was living in the Middle East when that project, it was a project with Europe or the US, but here I am now, 10 years later. And it's like 3 minutes long, but within 3 minutes, it's astounding. And I'm the one, I miss, the guinea pig who's started this, over these 30 years. But I'm learning anew. It's so cool. Like, you just dare to stop. It doesn't take time. Because our power is already there. Like, here's in real time an example how we even started this podcast, saying, it's your question of, going to the silence behind the sound. It's exactly that. How much time does it take? You go there, you're holding the entire power of the universe in your hands. Yes, it's also physical hands, but you're literally, figuratively, in all essence, dropping into the source of your power. It's beyond words, so it's kind of difficult to speak about. But then that connects to what we were speaking about before of, like, when you connect to that, you're connecting to the source of your voice inside. And then through this approach, it provides you with that bridge from your inner knowledge that's beyond, that's not precognitive, it's your higher brain. And then that provides a bridge for you then to be able to physically express yourself in a cognitive means that will then reflect who you truly are. And that's, that feeling of, oh God, other people don't have to get you, and they will because you got you. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes. That makes total sense. We don't stop to get to know who we are. It's so true.
Exactly.
But bringing that, and that's, you speak it, but it actually is a very difficult exercise for a lot of individuals to come to center and listen or be still with the silent sound, because those inner voices are very noisy. That's the
Exactly.
meditation, right? That's
Yeah.
and that's why a
Yeah.
lot of people say when they go into meditation, they say, "But I can't. I there's so many." And actually, if you try too hard to block them, you're actually making more noise because you're saying, "Be quiet, shut up, I can't think. Don't go away." So but
That
it is it's a
then
practice.
it
Yeah,
exacerbates. Well, that's the
exactly.
beauty of that's the
Yeah,
beauty of this approach, because it helps you to go beyond that whole identity of doing
right.
something to get a result. Because when you're coming from that place, you never get there, because from the get-go, you're missing the whole point of that. The foundation is that your answer, it's already inside of you. You don't need to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in our Western culture, especially, that's a difficult concept
Oh yeah.
to
Yeah.
believe. And like you said at the beginning, it's about trust and trusting ourselves. So yeah, it's very deep, but I certainly understand what you mean, that we're having to go inside to get to know
You're
ourselves,
so
because once we know our authentic self, then we emit that vibration or that frequency that connects with the others that are on that frequency, like you said.
exactly.
So,
Ding,
and
ding,
that's
ding.
the power. Yes, that's the power. But if you're not vibrating within on at your authentic frequency, then you're phony, and you wonder why you're attracting all this stuff that doesn't
Yeah.
resonate with you. See?
And it's so frustrating, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
like, inside, it's like, it kind of like missing it. That's why I put together that free workshop, because,
Yeah.
there's, like you say, you can't, it's something, it's more like breaking that autopilot, because we do know. I mean, how difficult is it to be who you already are? But we're
It
just
is.
so,
It is though. It is difficult.
yeah, yeah. So
Well,
that,
because we're our culture and the way of being is that we go into situations, or we have a job, or we're in school and we're taught how to behave. We're instructed what we should be doing, how we should be
yeah,
performing, and we have to break all those. So yeah, it sounds simple, but it's work. But that's
it's like,
I completely understand what you're saying. So give us an idea that what compelled you to become a healing voice mentor.
it's just one little step at a time. I didn't plan on it. I mean, left to my own devices, who needs God when Eliana Gilad is running the world? You know? It never goes according to my plan. Just one little step at a time, daring to listen to that inner voice and that inner guidance. And you know what? Um, I mean, what motivates me today, it wasn't something that I didn't think about becoming a healing voice mentor. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that was. And frankly, I didn't care. I cared about being true to myself. And I really cared about being in service and living my life honestly to myself, and my inner serenity, is the most important thing to me. And I've always known that if I don't have that, what's the point of anything else? And having grown up in Hollywood, very close in Hollywood, and seeing all these household names that you grew up with, and and they live in these mansions and then kill themselves because they have all the things that what we espouse, that's that we want to get to in life, and they get to it, and that's a horrible place to live, because you get what everybody wants and you still don't have it. That's hell on earth. And I think that's why I saw, oh yeah, that's why they killed themselves. And please, I don't, I ran from this place. I spent the first 50 years of my life leaving Hollywood. um
Yeah, it's very purposeful for you, and finding this calling, because you're right, it is a healing voice mentor. It's a very unique path. It's not
and
something that you hear of all the time.
And you know what? I really haven't been asked the question this way. So thank you, Jane. I appreciate it, because as I'm pondering the question right now, and what I think what made me or makes me, that I feel really good about that, because I am committed to support other people in being true to themselves. And there's not a lot in using media for constructive purposes. That's why I'm investing all my energy to be going on, podcast, tour, radio. I'm going back into media now very consciously to be of support and provide a constructive voice in the media, so that we can know that we are enough, and you do know what's right for yourself, and you do have your answer, and it's not on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. It's right inside of you, and you don't even need a Wi-Fi hookup. You can get the answer to any question 24/7. The price is being willing to listen to yourself.
That was beautiful. You are the source.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are the
And
source. That was beautiful.
imagine a world, where each one of us in their own time, that we dare to stop and listen to ourselves, and then we dare to respect what we're hearing, and we trust it, and act upon it, and we express it, and we hear each one of those voices, because there are no two voices alike. That forms a unified whole. That to me is Eden. That's how I want to live my life. That's how come I show up like this. That's my motivation. So I guess that's the long-winded answer to, what motivated me, or how did I become. It's that impetus. Whatever it is that is speaking to you inside, it does matter.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have no words for it, it is your true voice, and respect it. But the first step is stopping.
Right. To hear it. So
To hear.
thank you for that story. I wanted to move on to the purpose behind writing Emerge Triumphant, your new bestseller.
Yeah, well,
what was the purpose?
The purpose was that it's not just my voice. It's not just, bringing this material to light, because it's actually an enhanced and expanded version of the prior book, which is Miriam's Secret, Revealing the Ancient Wisdom of Feminine Leadership. But at this point, with 30 years into this work, and having, maybe I've trained more than 10,000 at this point, conscious professionals, healing professionals at this point, and people having so much, their own voices being impacted in some way, and that it's not about any one of us and feminine power and the pandemic happening, and seeing how people use this in, these unprecedented times. I wanted to give voice to that and share those stories as well that relate, that kind of brings the ancient precedents with the modern results in a very real, human, day-to-day way, so that people who are really ready to make their difference, that, they're feeling moved to, that whatever they've been through, they're at a real crossroads, and they are ready to ride the rapids, not hide under the covers, because there are a lot of people hiding under the covers, or, insisting on, that's all the trauma we're hearing around. But for those who are ready, there's not a lot of support, because, the commercial waves are just filled, with sensationalism and fear and, the usual trauma. And so that whole book it's a co-creation of our community. It's not any one person. And so that, it's the principle of the clarity, the principle of health, the principle of sanity and serenity that we each have within us. And that I'm just, once again, I'm following, those inner marching orders. When that voice speaks, those are my marching orders. It doesn't matter what's going on outside. I just know those are my marching orders, and that's my next lesson to learn. And that if I dare to follow it, it will take me to good places. And so the impetus of that book is to share that, so that other people can do the same with themselves, just like it brings us together. That's what you're doing in your way with your unique voice.
Any last words that you would like to share with our audience? We spoke at the beginning you talked about how our voices are an orchestra, and harmony, and how that brings us all together. Maybe you could just touch a little on that.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, and we can bring the science and the symphony together in that. So this thing about, the change is messy and it doesn't make sense, but harmony. I was saying to Jane just before we started this podcast that I tend to look at life in a musical way, and that we're each like instruments in this grand symphony of life. And how in a symphony there are all different kinds of instruments, and in a symphony, a really good piece of music has its dissonance and has its sonic dissonance and harmonies. And that I think what I want to impart is to not be afraid of the dissonance, to not be afraid of the conflict. Because think about, I like to use the metaphor of water, and that kind of connects us to the science of the parting of the waters, but let's go with like the flow of it. Think about water like a babbling brook that, like, how does that make you feel? Well, just think about it right now. Like, is that stressful or is it calming? What do you like, Jane, when you calming? All right. So yeah, it's calming. That in Hebrew we call it rishush. It's automatopoeia. Rishush shelamayim. But think about what is actually causing the calm is the flow of the water meeting up with the boulders. It's meeting. If there were no conflict, if there were no blocks, there'd be no babbling. It would be just, it would just be still, like tepid water. And if it's always like that, that becomes fetid. So don't be afraid of your conflict. And the other thing is, you may be, if you are ready to move forward and you've actually dared to take some steps forward, but you find that when you do that, it's even more uncomfortable, don't be afraid of that either. It's actually great news. It means that you're really, everything is an expansion and a contraction, like birth. And every time you're going to stretch, you're going to meet up with your boundaries. And that's beautiful. Be willing to go beyond, because there's so much more, and there's no right or wrong. It's, your choice. You're the instrument. How are you choosing, to expand or contract? There's no right or wrong. Your choice. You're the leader.
That's beautiful. I can certainly feel and see that. So thank you for that. And because we're here on the Epic Vision Zone, I have one last question, which is, if your life were an epic story, what would the title be?
I love that. Voices of Eden. Creating Eden on earth, one authentic voice at a time. One perfectly perfect human, authentically human voice at a time.
Beautiful. Yes, I could absolutely see that for sure. Well, again, thank you, Eliana, for joining us. And for more information and a beautiful trailer of her new book release, Emerge Triumphant, be sure to check out Eliana's website at emergetriumphantnow.com, or the main website, voicesofeden.com. And you can also find her contact information on our bio pages at the Epic Vision Zone, where we will also have some of the other links that she mentioned during the show. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath. And don't forget to reach out to me and download your free Keys to Your Dreams. Looking forward to hearing from you. This is the Epic Vision Zone, transforming your dreams into epic success.